Welcome to Awake to Oneness Radio. I am Caroline Chang, your host. The mission of Awake to Oneness Radio is to inspire the world to awaken to the universal truth of oneness. Science is now teaching us that all life, everything is energy. And that energy is interconnected and interdependent. In essence, that energy is one thing. Now, ancient wisdom and spirituality has been teaching us the truth of oneness for eons, and science is just now catching up, but it's not new science, actually. Quantum physics is over 100 years old, so this is something, to be honest, we should all know by now. Like I said, quantum physics, science, spirituality, ancient wisdom, the core of all religions is oneness. It's a very simple truth, and once we awaken as a society, as a humanity, as a species, once we awaken to the universal truth of oneness, there will be peace on earth. Today's show topic is Pathway to a New Life with Lacy, Frazer and John Milisitz. Milisitz. Thank you, John, and thank you, Lacy. John, you can unmute yourself and just say hi to everybody.
Hi, everybody.
Hi. Yes, we're having, just because of some feedback issues, we're having John mute himself. But everybody say hi.
Hello.
Hi. Okay. All right. So, Lacy, we'll start with you. Okay. So, Lacy, please share with our listeners who you are, your journey, and how you came to do the work that you're doing right now.
Well, first of all, Caroline, I feel so blessed to have this experience with you today. My journey has been not so different than yours from what I've read. So I am a clinically trained psychologist. I have been a practicing psychologist for 10 years, and I recently retired from actually a criminal psychologist. So I worked in the federal prison system for 21 years until December of 2017, when I decided to retire from that position so that I could, number one, become an empowerment coach, which was sort of more my realm and my style, and so that I could really expand my reach with the messages that I wanted to bring to humanity. So my journey, it's quite a story, as many people's journey to oneness and journey to awakening is. But I would say that for the first half of my career, I practiced as a very traditional psychologist, a very scientist-trained practitioner. I had very little training or experience in religion or spirituality. I could say that I did not really have a higher power. I was a scientist, and I practiced that way in the prison. I worked in inpatient programs with lots of different populations of men in prison, sex offenders, substance abuse, mental illness. I worked inpatient and outpatient. And then in between the years of 2003 and 2007, I sort of lived a deep kind of tragedy in my life that lasted about 4 years. And it involved a special needs child. And my partner, Marie Moeller, who you've spoken with before, really speaks very eloquently and well about that period of our life and that part of our journey. But we were really taken down and stripped kind of down to our core through that experience. It was a very tenuous kind of life and death living for about 3 to 4 years, highly, highly stressful. And it was one of those experiences where Western medicine didn't have the answers, our educational system didn't have the answers, our traditional therapists didn't have the answers, and it was a real feeling of no way out kind of feeling. And I really wasn't, it really called to myself and to Marie to reach for something different. When all the doors close in your life, you know, I always like to say, when all the doors closed, I had no choice but to look up. And it was at that point that I connected with a higher power. I connected with my concept of spirituality, oneness. I found my way to Hay House and all of Hay House authors, and you know, the teachings of Wayne Dyer and Michael Beckwith and Carolyn Mace and Lynn McTaggart, and this world just opened up to me and honestly saved my life.
Well, I love how, and you're the first person I heard say look up, which is fine, because we all have our different terms. I always say, when all the doors close and nothing outside of us is bringing us any kind of solution, peace, we go in.
Yes.
Yes.
And that's it. And that's when I teach about this, that's exactly how I talk about it. But back at that time in my life when I was searching and nothing was working, that I did go in, but at the time I really felt I was connecting to, really in the end, what I knew was I was connecting to my higher self, and which is really inside of me.
Yes. Yes.
And it just opened up an entirely new view of my world, my life, my everything. And it changed everything. And it really changed how I walked into the prison every day and how I worked with the men in prison every day. And once that experience happened, and I really awoke to the truth, the principles of the universe, the truth of who we are as spiritual beings having a human experience, the truth to our connectedness to this sort of all-powerful organizing force, right? This energy, our ability to create our own reality. I felt I was so compelled to bring these messages to the inmates in prison.
Amazing.
And it really was, the stories I could share with you are just incredible. And I felt so blessed and honored to be in a position where I could do this. You know, I sort of felt like I was kind of a light worker infiltrating the dark in a way. So I put together a program that was a year-long program for the men in the prison where I was.
Right.
It was basically the entire year was a hero's journey for these men.
A hero's journey. I like that.
Based a lot in Joseph Campbell's work around the hero's journey. And it was a very, very profound experience. And and John was in that group at one point, and I'm sure we'll talk.
I was just about to ask you to please let everyone know why John is on this show with us, because he was one of the inmates. So please share on that.
Yes, and I'm definitely getting there. So
no, take your time. Take your time. I don't want you to feel like I'm rushing you.
No, you're not. There's just definitely kind of a chronology in my own mind, you know, when I tell the story. But so I offered this group for 7 years, and so I took a group of 15 men through the program for 7 years. So seven groups essentially. And Caroline, the things I witnessed, I mean, were just the most profound experiences in the lives of these men in, of all places, prison. So, I mean, what more of a perfect place to bring these messages of oneness and these universal principles than prison? And what I found was that what would happen was the first year, the first group of men were very apprehensive. They had no idea what they were getting themselves into, kind of. And by the end of that year, they were just begging for a second year. And then all the men on the prison compound were seeing all the changes in that group of men from the first year, and they wanted to sign up for the next year. So I had, you know, a growing group of men interested in true personal transformation. And it was it was just a very, very exciting, blessed experience. So I did it for 7 years, and then I retired because I felt that it was time to kind of expand my reach to sort of take the teachings on the road, so to speak, to
Now, I'm only going to interrupt because I know that John may not be able to stay for the whole time. So what I want you to do is share with us, what group was John in?
So John was in the second year.
Okay.
And I'll sort of let him tell his story about how he found his way to the group. But I just want to say that when I retired, I reconnected. I knew I was going to either write a book or I was going to do what I realized was it was going to be a documentary film. And so I reconnected with many of the men who had gone through the group, had been released from prison, and who were living these amazing lives from this sort of spiritual lens. And they had maintained the changes and maintained through after their release and onward. And John was one of the people that I reconnected with. He had some very powerful experiences while he was in prison. And he was one of the most enthusiastic people that had gone through the program. So when we reconnected, it was sort of like we hadn't spoken in 4 years, but we picked up right where we left off. He was really working to shift his own life. And he joined me in the mission to make this documentary film. And
wow. And do you have a name for the documentary?
We do.
What's the name?
Freeing an Incarcerated World.
Awesome. Very, very good. So John, please share. I want you to, the reason I just want to let the listeners know, the reason I was kind of rushing Lacy along, because I know that you're at a facility, you're taking a certification right now, and I wanted, you might have to drop off early, so I wanted to bring you in sooner than later. Okay, John, please share how you found the program and how it transformed your life.
Well, I was living in California, and I had built up. I had a wireless company. I had a pretty big, what grew to be a pretty big, successful company, and which, like many times in my life, I self-sabotaged. Had some financial issues, made some poor decisions, and ended up where Lacy was at a federal prison. And, as I got to the prison, I went there expecting, well, I'm going to make the best of this. This is just a short time. I'm going to be great. And the first day I get to the prison, for some reason, these computer systems are all down. You got me there? Okay. Can you hear me? Okay. So the computer systems were down, and which kind of being a fluke. What happened next is they stuck me in a solitary confinement cell. And, as you're walking through that cell to get to that place, it was kind of like walking through death row, and just people yelling at you, screaming at you, every name in the book. And I get into the cell, and I broke down. And as I say a lot of times, how did I get here? How did this happen? And I dropped down to pray, and basically said to God, I don't know that I believe. I'm asking you to help me. I'm asking you to help me to believe. I'm asking you to show me a better way than I'm doing. I left there and went over to what's called a camp. And the first thing I did when I walked in is I see this big sign that says, change your thoughts, change your life. And it was a program. And I said, I need to be in that class. And that's kind of where it went from there. I met Lacy and ended up in the class, and I was there for a year. And after getting out, I've now left my wireless career and joined forces with Lacy, and we are on to some exciting things.
I have to remember I'm muting myself because of the feedback thing, to let the listeners know. But that was amazing. Wow. And when you said that, change your thoughts, change your life, of course I thought of Wayne Dyer. So I'm sure oh God, he was an awesome. You had mentioned a couple of Hay House authors, Lacy, earlier, and you mentioned Lynn McTaggart. She was the one, it was one sentence she said that woke me up. She said the biggest problem in the world was the illusion of separation.
Yes.
And that one sentence woke me up from my dream. But John, you can unmute yourself, John, because I want you to now, yes, I want you now to share with our listeners. Okay, so you went through the program with Lacy, and so tell us more about your transformation.
Well, it immediately in the class, you knew something was different. You knew your soul knows truth when it hears it, and when she's teaching, we all knew. We all found our way to that class because we were supposed to be there. And I did what I had to do to get myself in that class, and I got myself in trouble, and I got in there, and I needed a timeout in life to recorrect myself, and I got where I needed to be. And so it was an amazing year. You get in the class the first day, and you look around, and you see Black people, you see white people, you see Muslims, you see Christians, you see Jewish people, you see very successful guys, you see guys that were never, and you look around and say, how is this going to work? In prison, there's naturally a inherent racism, and you're like, how is this going to work? A bunch of guys who are closed off, who all have their guard up and trust nobody. How is this class going to work? I remember thinking that the first day, and by the end of this class, every single one of us just loved each other. We're still close to this day. Many of us had, it was such an amazing, amazing experience, and it was life-changing for everyone that went through it.
Wow, that is so amazing. When you think about it, like you were saying, the class had people of all different cultures, all different races, all different walks of life. That's the world. And if you notice, if you ever look at children, take toddlers, put a group of toddlers in the classroom together of all different religions, all different cultures, all different races, all they want to do is love on each other and play with each other. That tells us where our nature is. But I understand what you're saying. Not only in prison, out in the outer world, we still, especially in this country, we still have racism, and it boggles my mind in the year 2019 that we haven't at least awakened to the fact that we're all the same. Doesn't matter our skin color. I always say, I use animals as an example. If you love cats, do you care what color the cat is? Do you love a black cat more than a white cat? Or it's just ridiculous that that humanity is. But it is what it is, like I said, and we're waking up slowly but surely. So Lacy, please share.
Yeah, I'd love to jump in here because both, sort of segueing what John said, and also what Lynn McTaggart said about the illusion of separation. One of the first things I do in every group on the very first day is I write on the board the words education, race, socioeconomic status, religion, and I kind of do this list of these words, and then I go through them one by one and I erase them as we look around the room and we acknowledge everybody, and I say, okay, so we've got black, white, Native American, et cetera, et cetera. Is that going to matter in this class? And I erase it off the board. And then I erase each one and then create a circle and say, and that's when I bring in the idea of oneness for the first time. And I think at first the men, they don't know what hit them, they just, they are kind of not knowing what I'm talking about. They're already very defensive. They're living in an environment where they have to even be more defensive and more protective than they normally would be. So here we were together creating this collaboration of energy that just became one. And I'm telling you, the love that was that permeated the room, and the love that was with and among these men and me was just profound, especially when you looked around the room and you know, the illusion, it's such an illusion of separation. Our human selves give us so many labels and categories and boxes and things like that, and competition and all these things that appear to separate us, right? But the truth is that we are all one energy, and that energy is coursing through us every day, all day. And it's just incredible when you can help people sort of pull away the layers of their humanness and really connect to their divine nature. And that's what happened in this group over and over again. And it was just really profound to watch. And, you know, once you know this probably, but once you awake, you can't go back, you know, once you know, you can't go back.
You can't unknow. And
you cannot not know.
You cannot unknow. And like I said, it was for me, it was my awakening moment was in 2007, watching a film on quantum physics, What the Bleep. And like I said, I love that it was science that woke me up. You know, I've been studying metaphysical principles and spiritualities off and on for 30 years. Yes. But what really woke me up was the science of it. I'm like, wait, and then when I woke up, I'm like, this is so simple. Why doesn't everybody get this? You don't have to be a scientist to understand this. I mean, I'm like,
well, and I'm telling you right now, today, so I'm a coach and consultant in the world of reentry. So in the world where men and women are coming out of prison, and I'm doing some part-time contract work with the county jail. And just to speak to what you're saying right now, I mean, I've had 8 weeks with a group of women and a group of men, just 8 weeks. So in the federal prison, I had a whole year to work with these men. But in this situation, I only have 8 weeks. And I am telling you, everyone there, I don't care about their education, their race, their age, everything. When I share this stuff with them, and I always start with quantum physics, I always start with energy and that, and this sort of the scientific roots. And they grab hold so quickly, and they're begging me for more. Can you come in for more hours? Can you come in every day? Can you tell me what books to read? Can you tell me where I can get information about this or that? This, and what it comes down to, Caroline, is they all say, this makes so much sense. And why haven't I been taught this before?
It's truly a no-brainer. I actually did my first talk about a month ago, and the title of the talk is The Solution to All of the World's Problems, because it's truly that simple.
Yes.
It's that once we awaken to the fact that we are all one, like unity consciousness instead of separation consciousness, all of the no more poverty, no more war, no more crime, it'll solve all of our problems in one instant.
Yes.
Like if everybody woke up tomorrow knowing this, wait a second, we're all one. Why am I hurting this person? This person is a part of me. Yeah.
Right.
It's that simple.
And that's what our kind of, this is not just going to be a film. This is kind of a movement, this free and incarcerated world, because the whole premise is that we are all one, and we don't have to be imprisoned or trapped by our conditioned selves, right? That we can live free from ourselves, from our distorted beliefs, from our limiting beliefs. We can live in such a different way. And John and I talk a lot about this, and Marie's involved in this, and we've done some filming, some interview filming, and it's just been really a wonderful experience. But this is a movement. This is part of this. How can we change the world? How can we be the change we want to see?
Exactly.
And it's happening, and it's really, really exciting. I wanted to make tell you one brief story, which I think to speak to the oneness concept. And this was in your group, John. At one point, we had in group, I had given a keyword, just one word on a piece of paper that was kind of taped under everybody's chair before they walked in.
Okay.
And what I was going to have them do is they would walk in group, they'd get all their chatter out, and then and then one by one, they were going to take the word from under their chair, and they were going to sort of tell the group what they thought of that word.
Okay.
And So we were going around the room, and we came to this one gentleman, an African-American male who was very kind of big and burly and sort of had that like don't mess with me attitude, you know, and it was fairly early on in the group.
Right.
And he pulled his word out, and his word was oneness.
Wow.
And he looked and he paused, and he sort of looked around the room, and then he looked down at his arms, and he had, you know, goosebumps all up and down his arms. And he said, and he had long sleeves on though, but this is his description. And I said, are you okay? And he said, I just can't believe I got this word. And I said, why is that? And he rolled up his sleeve, and he had the word oneness tattooed down his arm. And he said, of all the words, I cannot believe this is the word I got. And he said, and it is only on this day that I understand why I got that tattoo. He said, because when I got it, it had a different meaning to it. But he said, now I know.
Wow. That is amazing. That is wonderful. Because I still, like, when I launched my show almost 5 years ago. I got all these questions like, what is this oneness? Is it a new religion? It's the opposite of a religion.
Right.
A religion is a border, is divine. I believe this, you believe that. We're separate. No, oneness, it brings everybody and everything, not just people, but the planet, Gaia, Mother Earth, the trees, the grass, the animals, everything on Mother Earth, and truly everything in the universe is just one thing. So oneness is a, do not, I plead with people, do not put oneness in the category of a religion, because it's the opposite.
Right.
The opposite. And then I speak about the unity within the oneness, meaning we don't have to believe the same thing. Someone can stay. I'm not trying to change anybody's religion. Yes. John, did you want to chime in?
Yeah, you know, I had a hard time grasping oneness. That was something for a long time. I meditated over, I mulled over it hard, you know. And what really made me understand it is when I came across the concept, there is nothing outside of yourself. You know, there's nothing outside of yourself. When you say everything is a projection of you, then you understand. That helped me to really understand it. And you know, once I came across that concept of it, I was like, okay, now I get it. And that really changed it. That was a big pivotal point for me of understanding it. You know.
I am so glad. I'm so glad you say that, because I have a picture of an eye that is the world, and I say when you look inside another person's eyes, and all you see is yourself, that's when you truly understand oneness at a heartfelt level. Because I've been doing this show now for 4.5 years, and a lot of people on the planet are talking about oneness, but a lot of it is intellectual.
Yes.
And not from the heart and the soul. Because when I understood it, it was an awakening from within. Literally, I felt my soul wake up inside my body. And to understand it, you have to understand that there is no right and wrong. There is no separation from you. Every aspect of another is an aspect of you. It's the 7 billion people on the planet. They're all a part of you. So no matter what, I'm not saying you condone behavior you don't condone. I'm saying, but you can see that person and know that person is the divine aspect of God, just like you are. And I say everybody on the planet is doing the best they can with what they know, with their awareness. Because I say, if you know, we're all awakening. We've forgotten who we are. Right. And in the dormant sleep state, like can you get mad at a baby for sleeping? No. Okay. So I just look, if somebody's doing something that I would not do myself, I still don't look at them as separate from me. I just say, okay, I look at them with love. And I say, okay, they're just, they're not awake yet. They're still asleep. And I just, you can't, so that's the image I use to keep, to keep me in that love vibration, unconditional love.
And I think for me, you know, when I had my awakening, and I would walk into that prison, and boy, there were a million things that would speak separation, right? You've got policies, you've got procedures, you've got all the inmates are wearing the same clothes with a separate number on them. You've got, you know, there's a million things that the human, I call it the human self, would look at and say, oh, we're separate. Oh, so our teacher, she's a white female, she's a PhD, she's a staff member, she's, you know, she's not one of us, right?
Mm-hmm, right.
And I bet John will speak to this, but when I walked in there, all of those labels and all of those conditions really melted away, and I was able to connect with every one of those souls in the room as one, and I was able to be love.
Yes.
In a healthy way in that environment. Yes. I was able to be love. And what I witnessed was as time went by, all of them began to tap into that within themselves, and they became love. And I think I watched over 7 years as these men transformed. They transformed the energy on the compound of all the other inmates who weren't in the program. You could see people changing, the energy shifting in the people who weren't even in there, because it just expanded love. The ripple effect.
Just like a drop in the ocean, it's gonna ripple
right
to all the shores. I mean, it's just that ripple effect. John, jump in and share.
I just, you know, Caroline, when you said that, it had me chuckling, because right now I'm in a class right now that's neuro-linguistic programming, and it kind of teaches you to rewire your brain and the way the pathways are formed in hypnosis. And today I learned, we were learning about Carl Jung, and he says you cannot perceive anything outside of you that is not already inside of you. And when you said that, Caroline, it just reminded me of what I learned earlier today. And I was like, wow, that's amazing. You know, it just was very interesting how a lot of this is coming in today. And
another author for you to check out, if you haven't already, Joe Dispenza. Have you ever heard?
I know Joe Dispenza. Yes, I do. Yes, I do.
He was also What the Bleep. That's where I discovered him.
Yes.
Oh my goodness. Yes.
Yeah. His story is amazing. He's a wonderful teacher. Yes. I did a full workshop with him at a Hay House conference once, and he just was unbelievable.
Yes, I got to meet him at an event in LA the first year I launched my show. So I'm still trying to get him on the show.
Yeah, you will.
He's a busy man. So it's all good. It's all good. Everything happens in perfect divine timing. So I want to ask John. John, tell us more about the documentary that you guys are working on together.
Well, you know, when Lacy had contacted me after retiring from the BOP, you know, it's something that we were discussing and talking about, and, you know, we kind of shifted, and the whole principle around what we wanted to do, we knew something amazing happened, and we knew something happened that was bringing everyone together, and it was making everyone in the group love each other unconditionally, and the connections that were formed were everlasting. And we knew it was something that would benefit the world. We knew that it was a story that needed to be told, and it really needed to be told. And so, you know, we've been on this crazy journey making this documentary, learning all about making a movie, making a documentary. You know, it's been a long, exciting process for us, you know, but you know, so you know, we've kind of gotten to a place where we've gotten a lot of the men together who, you know, many of them, you know, would have been called deplorables or unfixable, and now one's a pastor, and one's they're doing all these amazing things, you know, and so it's a story that we felt like, all right, this has got to get out there. People need to see this. It's fitting for the time and the changes that are going on in humanity right now, and we're going to do this, and it's been happening, and it's been really exciting. And
Can I hop in on that one?
Yes, of course. Yes.
You know, so we've so far we've interviewed several men who've had this sort of life-changing transformation. And the whole purpose of the film, what we've done so far is we've done a pitch video. So we've created a 15-minute pitch video so that we can then take it on the road and raise the money, raise the funds to tell the larger story. That's the plan. And it's not just about the film and telling the larger story. It's also about this movement that we're trying to create, because we also want to start a reentry academy. We actually want to start both a brick and mortar and an online school for men and women who are releasing from prison to learn these principles, to learn these universal principles, to learn, I always say, teach them how to fish. Don't give them a fish for the day. So,
Okay. Yes.
So the whole idea is that men and women releasing from prison are really missing. There's a lot of services for them for the practical things, getting a job, finding housing, getting their driver's license. But nobody's out there coaching them on their truth, on their core, on their spirit, on their how to take 100% responsibility for your reality.
Yes.
So many people, Caroline, walk through this life with a victim mentality. And when we awaken to the truth of who we are at the deepest level, we know that we are 100% responsible for our lives and creating our lives.
Yes.
So, I talk a lot about moving from victim to creator in a lot of my programming.
Yes.
So we've done this pitch video, just to bring it back to the film. We've created the pitch video. It's finally edited, and we're putting together a little bit of a business plan, and then we're going to hit the road and start talking and meeting with people and sharing with people. And in the video, we interview 3 men, one of which is John, and the other 2, one is a guy out of Missouri who was really a pretty hardcore outlaw, and he turned his life around, and he is now a minister. Another one served 35 years in prison he was sort of a drug kingpin. And after 35 years, he finally found his way to my program, and he left. I mean, he'd been working his way to transformation, but this kind of sealed the deal for him. And he's now a residential counselor working with men coming out of prison. He's gotten his peer support certification. A lot of these men, I also like to say, are moving or moved from a life of serving self to serving others. Yes. And in that oneness, they're serving others. And that's what we want our story to tell in a time when the world could use some hope and inspiration and motivation. We want people to see that real personal transformation and spiritual awakening is absolutely possible.
Yes. And
you especially, when you see it in men in prison,
right,
you're like, wow,
yes.
If they can do it, I can do it.
Yes, yes. And that's so true. And I also like, because society, when we think of serving others, because I've met some people who only focus on serving others, but yet are empty inside themselves. So I'm bringing that up to let people aware that when you waken up to who you are, that other is just an aspect of you. So you're really, in serving others, you're just serving another aspect of you. And but you have to understand that first has to come from you being healed, you being healthy, so you can have someone else. And I bring that up because I did meet someone recently, and her whole thing is, I want to help others, but she was empty inside.
Yes.
So I had to share with her, you gotta love, she just had this we talk about Joe Dispenza's work. Her self-thoughts and self-talk was so negative about herself. I never met anybody like that. I'm like, oh my goodness, nobody's saying this, nobody's calling you this but you. So so her whole focus was trying to help others, but she was just beating up on herself, something horrible. So I'm like, wait a second, time out. You gotta love yourself so you can love others.
And one of the things that I learned the most, and during some of my stint in prison, I was thrown in solitary confinement one time for 5 months. and Lacy will tell you, no fault of my own. I think my soul needed that. And I've learned that you can be happy under the worst of conditions. It's a choice. Happiness is a choice. And I was locked in solitary confinement at one point for 5 months. And that was the happiest 5 months of my life. And it was so exciting and so happy. And that's one of the things that we really wanted to stress in this documentary, is that happiness is a choice. It's not something that where conditions are all made. You know, it's a choice that you have in your mind. And on leaving that, I have to get back to my program now. So I'm going to thank you guys so much for your time, and I'm going to jump off. And
oh, I want to thank you. I forgot I was muted. Thank you, John, so much for being with us. And I so look forward to the documentary. But thank you so much. Love you.
Thank you. I'll talk to you guys soon. Okay, bye.
Okay.
Bye-bye. Okay. All right. Hey, Lacy.
Hey.
But to touch upon what John just said, oh my goodness, that is so true. Happiness comes from only one place, and that's within yourself. So many times we think, okay, if we get the money, if we get the house, we get the car, we get the girl, we get the guy, that's going to make us happy. No. Happiness, if you're not happy with you, if you're not happy in solitary confinement like he was, you're not going to be happy any place. Because it's an internal thing. It's yes. I'm so glad he shared that.
It was such a pivotal thing in his growth, and that's exactly what happened. And I don't think he'd mind me, expounding on that a little bit. But
yes.
he during that time, he had a choice. He could have gone and been put in there and been miserable and a victim and all of those things. But
Right.
he had done so much personal work to find his joy within, without, even though there were walls all around him all the time,
Right.
there were no walls within himself. And so he was able to experience that solitary confinement, and he was able to feel total joy. I mean, he had sort of euphoric experience after euphoric experience in there, and it was very powerful and very inspiring. And he's sort of the biggest messenger of you can be happy anywhere, and whether you live under a bridge or you live in a prison or you're in a hospital or you're in a mansion, it doesn't, it's always, it's within. It always comes back to what we've got going on inside and our connection to ourself, and nurturing that and loving ourselves. And then we can turn, like you said, then and only then can we really turn to somebody and in a very genuine, authentic way, help other people and serve other people.
Very true. Very true. And and actually it was what he said, he touched upon it. It was a blessing, him being into solitary. And that's such a key point, that from our human perspective, we have difficulty understanding that our greatest challenges are our greatest blessings. They really are. We actually plan them in spirit. I mean, some people may believe that or not. I do. I believe we are complete creators of our reality. And we created it from a level of, when we're in spirit, we know all of the lives we've lived. We know exactly why we're coming into this life. And we have a plan and we have a purpose. And so we set up these roadblocks for ourselves. And those roadblocks are our greatest blessings. And it's hard for people to understand that until when you awaken to who you truly are, you get it. Oh yeah, I get that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I do a lot of my coaching around that, because people, when people seek coaching or even therapy, they're seeking it to get help with a challenge, or something I can't overcome, or something that's going on with me that's just causing so much negative emotional pain.
Right.
And I always bring it back to, this was your plan. This is how, if you can look at it through this lens that that this challenge has presented itself, that you called it into your experience, so that you can face it and learn from it and grow from it, and eventually maybe teach about it,
Yes.
right? And that's why we come. I really believe the only reason we incarnate as human beings is to learn from our experiences and expand our soul
Exactly.
from the inside out.
Yes.
And
Yes, exactly. And then with these challenges, what we as humans like to do is push them away. Just push them away, push against it. But the more you push against it, the more it gets stronger.
that's
Because
right.
it has to be embraced. You have to embrace the challenge. You have to shine light on it and understand it. Understand why it is in your life. And when you embrace it and understand it, that's when it transforms.
Exactly.
You can't push it away. You have to embrace it.
Yes, and I'm sure you're familiar with Debbie Ford and her work. She did a movie called The Shadow Effect, and she was well known for the shadow process, which was something she developed, and her whole sort of approach was to really face our shadow aspects, to integrate. Because we're human, that's part of the human condition, right? And we have a shadow and we have light and we have both. We have masculine and feminine energy. We have both. We have it all within us. And so, what I love, or how I would kind of characterize spiritual awakening, is really tapping into and integrating all of these aspects of the self. Awesome. Dark and light, black or white, male or female. We have it all.
Yes.
But the way our human conditioning is we want it to be separate. We want to have labels. We want to compartmentalize so it's easier to understand.
Yes.
But the truth is when, like you said, when you face the challenge, when you embrace it as a learning experience, when you integrate it and you integrate the lessons, it transmutes the energy. Exactly. And we can bring in quantum physics here really easily, because that's what it's all about, is that we live in this sort of magical universe that is we are co-creating with all the time.
Very true. I love using the yin and yang symbol, and I don't know if I say that right. Yin yang. Well, I love using it because when you look at that symbol, that it's equal. Your shadow side and your light side, it's equal. No, one's not bigger than the other. And we always want to think of high vibration light as good. We want to think of low vibration shadow as evil. When there's no good and evil, it just is. And they're equal. They're actually equal. And the only way to overcome the shadow aspect of your life is to embrace it, and then it transforms. But you can't judge. We can't judge these different aspects of our lives, just like we can't judge our personality. We all have, dark and shadow sides to our personality. Right. And the same thing with mankind. There are people that, I wouldn't do that, but I still have to embrace that person. And when I say, I don't mean run up to a guy with a gun and just hug him. I'm like, you shine love. It's about having no judgment of that person. Critical. Yes.
And that was a critical ingredient for me working with the criminal population. And because once I had tapped into that, the oneness within me and the oneness of me in the universe and the oneness of me in everything, I could just look in the faces of every one of those men, no matter what color, creed, religion, anything, and really feel no judgment. And they felt that from me. And I think that's why so many of them were able to transform themselves, is because they were able to see themselves in me kind of in that non-judgment way.
Yes. It's the energy. It's the vibe you gave off, which was genuine, unconditional love. And sometimes you don't have to say a word. Just that presence of unconditional love, they feel it. It's a vibration.
Absolutely. And it wasn't always, rainbows and butterflies. There was confrontation, and there was feedback, and there were all those things, but it was always done in love, in the energy of love. And when something is done in the energy of love, I mean, I just get chills. The energy of that just can transmute anything. It can transmute any challenge. It can transmute anything.
Exactly, exactly. Now, I want you to share, you touched upon it earlier, the Whole Soul School.
So,
Yes.
okay, so when I Marie and I had wanted for a long time, we had envisioned ourselves creating a holistic spiritual center of some kind. Marie is a spiritual channel, author, artist, creative, and I had come into my own oneness and awakening in my own way, and I was teaching and mentoring and guiding people in the prison, and then eventually in my coaching practice. So when I retired, we'd always envisioned creating a holistic spiritual center, and we couldn't really figure out how we were going to do that financially as far as a physical space. So
Right.
we decided to create an online, a nonprofit. It's a nonprofit, and it's called Whole Soul School and Foundation.
Okay.
And the mission of Whole Soul School and Foundation is really to enrich, educate, integrate, and liberate the hearts and minds of people worldwide. And we also, from the philanthropic side, support programs, projects, and products that are specifically designed to educate and empower and inspire people whose lives have been impacted by incarceration.
Okay.
So if you go to our Whole Soul School and Foundation website, we do a lot of the conversations kind of like we're doing. We do a lot of podcasting.
Okay.
And a lot of time we have a theme every month, and Marie and I have 2 different conversations in the month together around that theme.
Okay.
Which the first one is sort of a basic discussion about the theme, and the second one is around a specific film that illustrates the theme.
Okay, cool.
And then in between that, I do a podcast conversation with a former inmate.
Okay, awesome.
Around the theme. And that particular show is called Transformation Talks. And so the idea, like you, Caroline, is it's a Whole Soul School and Foundation right now has a lot of free content for people worldwide to tap into these messages. Our 12-month theme sort of takes you, I call it from human to soul. It starts out with a lot of talking about the ego and our conditioned self and our defenses. And then as we sort of get into science, and then science and spirituality, and then, when we move along that sort of circle, and everything we do in the foundation revolves around each of those monthly themes.
Wow.
So,
really good.
So it's been a great starter for Marie and I, and we're hoping to grow the foundation, in a traditional kind of foundation way.
Yes.
But with our mission to help people who are coming out of prison, and even helping people, even sending products into prison, books and things like that.
Yes.
As
awesome.
Well. So,
awesome.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah,
I love that, because it's like you're just demonstrating that when you awaken, it's a true awakening. It's a true awakening when you want to just share it with the world.
Yeah.
So that is, yes.
Absolutely. And I've been so blessed to be able to share it with a population of people, and in an environment that, otherwise might not ever have the opportunity.
Yes.
To tap into this within themselves.
Yes.
And I feel so, I don't know, the word honored and blessed keeps coming, that I've been able to do that. And now, it's really time to expand that reach and help coach and mentor and guide people to back to themselves.
Wow, that's amazing. That is wonderful. Love for you. Share now, before we get to, I don't want us to forget to share all the links, share your link, how people can find you, and share the link again to the school. Okay,
so the nonprofit is called Whole Soul School and Foundation, and you can find us at www.wholesoulschoolandfoundation.org, because it's a nonprofit.
Yes.
And then I have a coaching and consulting practice, and you can find me at www.lacyfrazercoachingandconsulting.com. And then we are working on our website for the film.
Okay, I was going to ask about that. Okay.
That'll be www.freeinganincarceratedworld.com.
Okay.
And we're hoping to have at least a landing page up, within a week or two for that.
Okay.
That'll be a place people can go to read about the mission and consider donating to the mission.
Awesome.
And then eventually, kind of a little bit farther down the road, we want to open a reentry academy, which is a school, a brick and mortar school that is specifically designed to have programs for men and women releasing from prison. And that, again, that's probably another few steps down the road.
Right.
But it's all connected, I mean,
It's all
everything's
connected. And the thing I know, because I have similar visions, and I know that it's up to the universe. I know that if I can envision it, that it already exists, because all there is the now. One of my favorite books is The Power of Now. But and actually science has proven this. I read somewhere recently, Stephen Hawking, the physicist that died recently, in his work, he discovered that in the now, it actually affects the past as well as the future.
Yes.
So he has scientifically proven that, we remember Einstein said time is merely an illusion, albeit a very persistent one. But Stephen Hawking, in newer work, has also discovered scientifically all we have is the now. So if you can envision it, it already exists. That brick and mortar school already exists.
Yes.
It's just about raising our vibration so we can actually physically see it. I also have the desire for a brick and mortar oneness center here in the Poconos where I live, and I really feel that's why I was drawn to the Poconos 27 years ago. My son is in spirit. Kyle is his name, and he actually told me what to name him before his birth. I couldn't figure it in a dream. He told me to name him Kyle.
Wow.
And Kyle stands for, I founded the Kyle Foundation, which right now it's just, that's it. I founded a foundation. But the Kyle Foundation is spelled Kyle in capital letters because Kyle is an acronym for Keep Your Light Expanding. So my vision is to see a Kyle Center here in the Poconos, and it'll happen because I can envision it. So
it already is.
It already is. It already is.
And like you said, we just have to trust and know that it will come into form exactly as it's designed. Because if we're already having these thoughts, I mean, Marie and I had these thoughts about a center of some kind 20 years ago, and we hadn't even awakened yet.
Yes.
So we knew that we were going to be a part of something like that, but we didn't know what it meant. We were like, what is this? What's going on?
I have a big smile on my face because I actually envisioned some kind of community center before. This is back in the mid to late 80s. I would say more of the mid 80s. So it was long before I had awoken to oneness. It was before Kyle was born, actually, because I remember at the time when I first had this vision, I only had my daughter. Kyle hadn't even been conceived. So, yes, I definitely had these visions of a community center back in the mid 80s.
Wow, that is so cool.
Yeah.
Well, and I think, if we really believe that we script our life ahead of time.
Yes.
There's something within us that already knows the path. And when we awaken, we can then if we can learn to, Marie and I call it, follow the breadcrumbs.
Right.
And so we've got our past or our script that's guiding us from back here. And then we have a future pull of the knowing that what is to be. So we're moving along. Perfect. Exactly as we should. So yes, I believe your center will be, it already is, my center already is, and all of us who are doing this work, we are here now at this time to raise the vibration of the planet, to shift humanity into a place of light and oneness and wholeness and love.
Yes. Yes. And I love, you must tell Marie, give her my love, but you must tell her, I just love her channel messages. I know she does 2 a month, one at the beginning and one in the middle. And I listen to them religiously. And I loved how she brought up in this last channeling about how 2020 is clear vision. Can you think I never like 2020, when you have 2020 vision, you don't need glasses.
Yes. Oh,
I've never had 2020. But she said the year of 2020 is going to be a year of clear vision. And I just love that. I'm like, wow, 2020 vision. I love that. That's my new thing. That's when I talk about 2020, I'm just 2020 vision. I got that from her.
So all of our vision should be clear and manifested in 2020.
Honey, yes.
Let's hold that. Let's hold that.
Yes, this is so amazing. And I definitely want us, you, me, Marie, we're going to stay in contact because we are so much in alignment, and we can, just share resources and work on projects together. It's the way it's supposed to be.
It is. The group energy is so incredibly powerful.
Yes.
That's one, and I'll just make this my last point, but that's one big lesson Marie and I have learned is that, we've journeyed a large part. We've been together 28 years. And so a large part of that journey has been a solo journey together.
Yes.
In a lot of ways. And since we've awakened, we've really learned that we can't do anything on our own, that it is about opening to all of us and the group energy. And that's, that's John, that's many of the men. That's kind of why that's circling back, I believe, because the energy of the group is really what's going to power it, literally power the vision and bring it into form.
Yes, it's very true. That's also what I feel like with my show. I've been doing the show now I've done about 170. I've actually lost count, of how many shows I've done. I've done over 170 shows. And with each guest, I have this connection. And I really believe that, that I'm keeping those connections and growing because, like you said, it's the group consciousness, because we are all one. It is a collective consciousness. And what we're trying to do right now, the collective consciousness is separation, but we want to shift that collective consciousness to unity consciousness. And once we're in unity consciousness, then we'll be living heaven on earth. We truly will be. Yes.
100%.
Oh, definitely. Well, thank you so much for being my guest, and we are definitely going to keep in touch. Please give Marie my love, and I know you have three daughters. Yes.
Actually, 2 sons and a daughter.
2 sons and a daughter. Oh, okay. I don't know why I was thinking all girls. Your daughter was on my mind. So for some reason, I was thinking all girls. But please give your children my love. I know that you guys are doing tofu scramble because I brought that up, but I don't know if you had tried my version yet because your daughter had a version. So
yes.
I want you guys to try my version and let me know what you think of it. Okay.
It's on the to-do list. It's on the docket.
Okay, it's on the refrigerator.
Yes.
Caroline's tofu, scrambled tofu.
And our daughter is Caroline. Our my name is Caroline. I was born Caroline, but I've always been called Lacy. So we got that connection going on.
Wow, sweet Caroline. Well, thank you. This has been too great. Oh, thank you so much. And so give the family my love, and we will stay in touch.
Thank you, Caroline, so much.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
Bye-bye for now.
Bye-bye.